Something that baffles me, and it probably baffles some of you, is why Georgia doesn't get the ball to Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington even more than they do. And I'll explain a little bit of my reasoning behind that. And I know scheme matters a lot. I know that people get schemed for. Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington definitely get schemed for on the defensive side of the ball. There was a joke earlier this week about Bowers being triple teamed, and Kirby said that doesn't exist. But he certainly gets double teamed sometimes, and that's not good for a defense. And sometimes you have to double Darnell Washington just because of how big he is. Why do they not get the ball more? That is my question. I think that they should be getting the ball more. I think that, those are two of your best players on your team. I've got them on my screen, and you see what Darnell Washington can do when he's got the ball in his hands. And you know what Brock Bowers can do when he's got the ball in his hands. Ryan Kelly from Dog Post here talking about Georgia's tight ends and why they're not getting the ball more. Make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION, our insider look at last year's national championship. You're not going to see photos like that anywhere else and writing from anyone else the way that we did it for you. And if you're watching this, this is going out at 4 on YouTube today, and we are live 4 to 7. So the stream, click on the stream as well at Paloma Park or pull up to Paloma Park. 4 to 7 today, happy hour at Paloma Park pregame. This game with us. Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, Oscar Delp too. I'm going to leave Eric Gilbert out of it just because, let's leave him out of it. So Oscar Delp means, true freshman, so it doesn't apply as much to him. But Bowers is the best tight end in college football. I think he's the best player in college football. And you did see him get targeted a few times last week, and there were some miscues. Some were his fault, some were Stetson's fault. Most of them were Stetson's fault. Star players get the ball a lot. And I don't understand why Georgia's star players don't get the ball. I know that Georgia has a plethora of talent, but so do some of these other schools. Jameson Williams got the ball a lot last year. He got it a ton every game. Go look at the rest of Alabama receivers. Look at Devontae Smith. He got the ball a lot. There's a lot of other examples. Running backs that get the ball a ton. Receivers that get the ball a ton. In the NFL, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, those guys get the ball a ton. Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington are that for you. I think that they need the ball more. I am not an offensive coach. I'm not a football coach at all. I've never coached football in my life. I've played football. But I don't understand why you don't scheme them more. I don't understand why they don't have the ball in their hands more, why they're not targeted more. Because what has Brock Bowers shown us in just one game, too, against South Carolina, but over the course of his career at Georgia? He can run, he can catch, he can juke, he can block, he can truck you, and he can moss you in the end zone. And a bad thing has never happened when Brock Bowers has got the football in his hands. Knock on wood for the Georgia fans out there. But and in just 20, he's averaging 17.7 receptions a game. He's third in receptions and he's first in yards on the team. Donna Washington having a much better year than he has in the past, and he's showing how important he is as a leader, as someone in the locker room, as a blocker, and as a receiver. His default is to hurdle people. He's 6'7", 6'8", 270-ish, around that range. And he's hurdling people, he's trucking people, he's stiff-arming people. The fact that he has one career touchdown as a Georgia Bulldog, and this is his third season, I think is a travesty, because I think that he needs to get the ball in the red zone more. He needs more. How many times has he been targeted in the red zone over the course of his Georgia career? It's got to be less than 5. I can't recall other times. And his one touchdown was last year in a loss against Alabama in the SEC championship game. Bowers obviously showing how he could run through 4 or 5 people in that same exact game. So how come Georgia doesn't scheme? Well, some of that is what they get defensively, the looks they get defensively. Some of that is Georgia does have a plethora of talent. But guess what? A.D. Mitchell's been out for weeks. Lab McConkey's been acting as the number 1 receiver. Georgia's running back room has been banged up. So that's all the more reason to get the ball to Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington more. And it's all the more reason why I've become a little bit confused. When Brock Bowers has ran the ball 3 times this year from handoffs, he's got 3 touchdowns. One of them was a 75-yarder. The other 2 were short touchdowns. He's averaging 27, I think, 0.3 yards per carry coming out of the backfield. The dude can do it all, and he is a touchdown waiting to happen when he gets the ball in his hands. There's not a lot of players like that. where when they get the ball in their hands, you're just like, because it might be a touchdown. Brock Bowers is one of those football players. There's not a lot of people like that in the country, but Brock Bowers is one of those football players. I would say he's the number one football player for that right now. It was the way I felt about Jameson Williams last year. He was a touchdown waiting to happen. When he got the ball in his hands, was he going to be gone? Same thing with Devontae Smith. Same thing with Jalen Waddle. We're talking about huge talents right now. Same thing with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. They were touchdowns waiting to happen. That is what Brock Bowers is. So I think he needs to be schemed more. If that is possible, Todd Monken, I think that's what you and the staff should be working on, because I think that is the best case scenario. And I think Darnell Washington has his role on the team. That's clear. His role is to block. His role is to be a huge receiver. But I think you need to use him in the receiving game a little bit more, just because we see what happens when he gets the ball in his hands. He's dragging dudes. Our intel from one of Georgia's scrimmages over this offseason in August was that he drug Dan Jackson like 40 yards in a scrimmage. That's what Darnell Washington is, and we know what Brock Bowers is. Together on the field at the same time, which they are out there a lot, it's hard to prepare for that, especially when Georgia has other talent around them. Getting healthy is going to matter because it's going to open more things up for them. A.D. Mitchell, I think it's understated how important A.D. Mitchell is to this team, just because he is that number one receiver. It's the same thing last year when they didn't have George Pickens, and Bowers turned into that. Bowers still is your number one option on offense. I just think they need to feed him more. That's my take. Maybe it's a casual take, but that's my take. Let me know what you think, and hopefully we're seeing you at Paloma Park at DawgPost on all social media, dawgpost.com. Books down below as well. See you there.